interest over personal and corporate rivalry. The clash between the two industry giants stems from disagreements over pricing, product supply, and market structure. That man has raised fears about fair competition and supply arrangement, while Dangote Refinery maintains that domestic refining should be allowed to stabilize without undue interference. Koran expressed concern that public exchanges have escalated tensions and risks polarizing the downstream sector, highlighting Nigeria's past reliance on fuel imports despite being a top crude oil producer. The association noted that the commissioning of the Dangote Refinery and several modular refineries marks a turning point for the nation's energy landscape. The association stressed that marketers remain crucial and critical to refining success, since refineries rely on efficient product evacuation, storage, and retail distribution. Minister of Interior Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo says the Nigerian Immigration Service can now deliver 4,000 to 5,000 passports in 5 hours for the first time in 62 years. He disclosed this in a statement on Thursday after inspecting the newly built centralized passport personalization center at the NIS headquarters in Abuja. With the infrastructure, Tunji-Ojo said the service could personalize over 1,000 passports in 1 hour, up to 250 to 300 passports daily. This statement says, and I quote, "To put it into perspective, long before this development, the service could only record an average of 250 to 300 passports daily. But today, under 5-hour works, the service can now deliver about 4,500 to 5,000 passports. As a major milestone for the first time in 62 years of the service, NIS, this centralization puts an end to the production of our passport at multiple centers across the world." End of quote. Lagos State government has ordered the immediate suspension of all reclamation projects across the state, citing environmental risks. Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources Tokunbo Wahab announced the directive in a press release issued on Thursday. Wahab said the ministry observed with concern the proliferation of reclamation activities on wetlands, floodplains, and lagoons statewide. He noted that affected areas included Parkview, Banana Island, Osborne, Ikoyi, Victor Island Extension, Lekki, Aja, Orinsuki, and parts of Ikorodu. The commissioner warned that many projects lacked proper environmental impact assessment approvals and drainage clearance from the ministry. He explained that reclamation, though beneficial for housing and infrastructure, carried risks of flooding, erosion, and ecosystem disruption. You are currently listening to the World News at 12 right here on the Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We will take a short break. When we return, we'll head into the news analysis segment. If you're just tuning in, this is the World News at 12 on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We'll now go straight to our analysis segment where we have Samuel Ame, a legal practitioner and current affairs analyst, joining us. Barrister Ame, thank you very much for joining us on the News at 12. Hello, sir.
I'm grateful. Good afternoon.
Okay, sir. Let's go straight to the first. Let's go straight to the first talking point of the news at 12, where the FCT minister in Wike made a comment saying Nigerians must count themselves lucky to have a leader like President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, whom he described as a tolerance of criticism. That statement is rubbing lots of Nigerians the wrong way. Let's forget about the context, the reason for why he made the statement, and first analyze the statement. What do you think about it?
Okay. Everybody has the right to freedom of expression in Nigeria. So he has the right to make such expression. But it is left for the people to judge, to analyze, or to agree or disagree whether we are lucky to have a tolerant president. Yes, he's entitled to his opinion. But to my own opinion, I don't think people are happy about the way and manner in which the president is going about the affairs of the country. I'm not very, very sure that the people are actually satisfied. The policies might be very okay, but I think the implementation is at the wrong time, and the mode of implementation is also another cause for worries. You understand? So he's entitled to his opinion. I will not say it's right or wrong, but for him to say that in Nigeria we are lucky to have a tolerant president, well, he might be right, but to my own opinion, I don't think he's right, because there are a lot of policies on the Cybercrime Act, prohibiting people from expressing themselves on social media. Yes.
Bastame, we're talking about a democratic country here. If we are in China or in Russia or in a military dispensation, then that comment might be said to be positive. But we're talking about a democratic country here. I mean, if you're not tolerant, you should go and be president of an authoritarian country. And of course, we're also talking about a very low bar here, where if you take a look at the previous administration, the Muhammadu Buhari administration, where there was hounding by DSS to a lot of persons, where if you make any comment, even to us as journalists and a media practitioner, where you make any comments that is perceived to be an opposition to the President Muhammadu Buhari administration in any way, shape or form, then you will be threatened by the DSS. And so the bar is quite so low, that these statements begin to sound laughable.
Exactly. That is the point I was trying to drive at before you came in. You see, on social media, for example, so many people have been limited as to what to say and what not to say. You understand? So both public domain, anywhere you find yourself, you cannot criticize the government. You can't criticize the government. People cannot expressly talk about what they feel about the government because of fear of arrest or threat. So I think democracy has been murdered to a large extent in Nigeria. Democracy has been murdered. So I think there is a need for Tinubu or the government to at least go back to the drawing board and then see how the people can be carried along in governance. Governance in a democratic dispensation must be done with the consent and agreement of the majority. If the majority are not satisfied with the current leadership, then it means that there is no democracy. Now I cannot go to Facebook and express myself, but in as much as everybody has the right to express his opinion, I think there must be a limit, not using abusive languages and all those things against the personality of the government. But at least we should be given freedom to express ourselves, whether we are satisfied or dissatisfied with the government. You understand?
Okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Your last statement there, it sounds as if you think Omoyele Sowore went too far with his comments, these criminal comments.
Definitely, he went too far. He went too far. You know, when you are criticizing the government, you don't need to personalize it. He personalized the criticism. You understand? For him to have used such language on the person of the president of the country. The president is the image of the country. Are you with me? And whatever image you portray on the president is what the world will look at it as.
Well,
you know,
some may disagree with you.
If our president is being referred to as a criminal, then why must I be giving visa to go to United States of America? Why must I be giving visa to go to Dubai? So it's that statement alone does not. It's not even at the impact of that statement is not only directed at the president, but the entire country as a whole. The image of the country currently is at stake because everybody look at Nigerians as criminals, corrupt, you know, and all manners of disdainful analysis.
Some may disagree with you, saying what's going on in Nigeria is explanatory enough. That you can the office of the president in Nigeria has already been bastardized, especially since the APC came into power. So how worse can it get? You know, when you see everything that's going on with corruption running rampage, the situation where the president has called for Nigerians to be patient and tighten their belt, and then the government has been spending recklessly. I mean, all these, it's quite obvious, isn't it?
Well, to me, personalizing criticism to the office of the president or the governor, I think to me is a distraction and is an insult on the government. Everybody has the right to express his opinion on the way and manner the government is being administered in Nigeria, but not to the extent of casting aspersion on the personality of the president. No matter how worse your president is, you don't go on social media to criminalize him without the judgment of the court. The court has not convicted. Moreover, Section 305 has granted immunity to the governors and to the president. And the reason for this immunity is because of all these presidential utterances by the public. It's a distraction. In as much as we, the majority of the Nigerians, are not satisfied with the way and manner we are being led, people are suffering. People are, you know, many parents today cannot take their children to school because there is no money. The money has lost its value. You know, the purchasing power is nothing to write home about. And then you criticize the policies of the government and not criminalizing the government, because Sowore is not a court of law. It's only the court of law that can pronounce someone a criminal after conviction. So I think Sowore should have waited until after the administration of Tinubu so that I can sue him to the court of law, you know, stating he's a criminal, and then the court will take it first.
Now, something interesting happened on 2 days ago, if I'm not mistaken, you know, concerning the Sowore and his tweet where the DSS sued Sowore, and of course Sowore sued the DSS and X, and I mean the whole thing was getting messy. But the big question is, though, Nigerians are beginning to get confused on what the job of the DSS is supposed to be. As far as we know, DSS has to do with intelligence gathering, you know, and national security. And at a time where insecurity in Nigeria is on an all-time low, again, you know, resurgence, won't you be expecting that DSS will be very busy trying to protect Nigerians from the myriad of insecurity going on. But DSS have been going after personalities for a while now, and Sowore is becoming one of those latest personalities that DSS is going after, suing Sowore for this comment. What do you think about that and the job that DSS is supposed to be doing?
Well, I do not blame the DSS for setting those charges exemption because they are doing their job.
How so? Is part of the job going about personalities?
The office of the DSS is established by it's been established under the Act, and their duties under the Act have been enumerated. You understand? And one of the key duties of the DSS is to protect the personality of the officer in power, the president, the governors, the deputy governors, to protect their interests. Are you with me? It's not a political establishment.
Wait. Hello, sir. You're saying part of the DSS job is to protect the personalities of the political office holders.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Against hate speech, against people who are out to cause confusion in the government, people who want to fight directly against the government. It's the duty of the DSS to curtail such people so as not to distract government.
So you think Sowore calling the president is that hate speech?
It is. It is not only hate speech. It is defamatory because it casts aspersion on the person of the president. Now, the statement when you say someone is a criminal, what is your
evidence?
Yes, evidence. Has he been able to establish any case against the president of stealing or any criminal act? You understand? From the literal interpretation of what Bola Tinubu did in Brazil is the floating, the easing of the effort change, and that is one of the major reasons why corruption is trending. And now that you can get foreign exchange at ease, so he is simply telling them that, well, they are taking measures that will curb corruption by, easing the foreign exchange transaction. Now you can go to bank and get dollar freely, buying and selling and all that. So getting dollar is not something that is as difficult as before again, you understand? So, but I think the interpretation was taken to be a general comment that Nigeria is entirely free from corruption, which is not, to me, which is not the intention of the president. I'm not his lawyer anyway. But even if there is a criminal action against the president, and Sowore has the evidence at his disposal, until the court pronounced the president a criminal, Sowore as an individual does not have that right to call the president a criminal. Even you yourself, nobody can just meet you on the road and say you are a criminal. The person must prove beyond reasonable doubt. So he has to go to court and defend himself. If he's able to establish that, yes, the president is a criminal, fine. The JFS are doing their job. I don't blame them for the action they took. And they are even more civil with him by giving him 7 days ultimatum to remove that statement.
I've heard several legal practitioners calling it it's supposed to be a defamation, not hate speech.
Whatever language is being used by the law,
because I don't see how DSS gets to do with defamation.
Well, you see, the language itself, whether it's defamation or hate speech, as I said earlier, it goes in portraying the image of our country in a negative manner. You understand? And I think the DSS, they have the right to protect the image of this country. Nobody can just come and insult the country and go free, whether it's the country you're insulting or the president. You understand? So whether Sowore is guilty of defamation or not, for the fact that he took this thing to the social media, to the entire world, to call the president a criminal, is enough to distract governance. And anything that will distract governance is within the purview of the DSS to curtail it. Are you with me?
Okay. Now, let's go to the second topic for discussion because of time, where supporters of Rivers State Governor Siminalayi has once again gathered at the Government House in Port Harcourt, eagerly waiting his return to work. He was supposed to return to work yesterday. Thousands of supporters gathered at the Government House, but he didn't show up. Of course, this is happening after the president called off for the state of emergency in Rivers State on Wednesday. So what do you think about the state of emergency in Rivers State?
Well, if I were in Sowore shoes, I won't be in a hurry to resume power.
Okay.
Yes, for security reasons. You understand? So I think we don't need to talk much on that area. The government house will need to be sanitized before it comes in. I think that would be the reason for the delay.
How so? Can you explain? Can you explain further, please?
Well, the way and manner it was being removed from there is such that it's not supposed to rush. I'm just talking from the logical point of view. You understand? So, just as I said, for security reasons. You understand? I think the gentleman will need to take his time. The governor of Lagos State sometimes work from home. So I think he can even govern Rivers State from home, not necessarily resuming at the government house. My opinion.
But what do you think about the way the emergency rule was pronounced by the president? And of course,
it was wrong. It was wrong. The process of pronunciation of everything that happened on the 18th of March down to 17th of September yesterday is totally wrong. It's not democratic at all.
And
it's a slap on democracy.
Some persons have said the local government election that was conducted by the Sowore administration it is unconstitutional. That the elected governor Siminalayi needs to conduct another local government election. That's the only way those local government chairmen and the councillors and wards will be legitimate. Do you agree with that?
Well, I agree that the election was flawed because we already know the kind of country we found ourselves. You understand? And whatever happened in Rivers State during that local government election is not new to us. It's not new to the whole world. You understand? So whatever decision Kubala wants to take on that, I think he should take his time and then arrive at a decision that will not shut him at his, on the leg for the second time. You understand? Because as it is now, his governance is monitored. It's completely monitored, and so he has to be very careful this time around. Except he doesn't want to be a governor anymore. If I were him, I'll tender my resignation and leave. So there's no democracy in Rivers State. There's no democracy in Nigeria.
Because some persons are saying as it is now, he's definitely going to be a puppet governor. He will be a governor just in position alone, but with no power and authority to do anything.
He's just coming to beat to the tone of Wike now. You understand? So for me, if I were him, I'll reasonably tender my resignation letter.
There are some people that are saying he should fight. I mean, instead of being a puppet president or resigning, he should continue with the fight. Again, obviously you don't agree with that.
But his life is at stake. Do you know what has been planted in the government house within 6 months? In the event that it doesn't dance to the tune of the government, do you know what will be the fate of Mubarak? This is a sign. This first one now is just a warning. The second one might be more disastrous than this. So if I were a gentleman, I would just leadership under a toxic government is not a conducive atmosphere. I will take my bath.
Okay, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, Barrister Ahmed. Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you
time.
very much. Thank you for having me.
That was Samuel Ame, a legal practitioner and current affairs analyst, talking to us on the news at 12 on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. And for a quick look at what's happening outside Nigeria, the US has for the sixth time vetoed a draft resolution at the United Nations Security Council that would have demanded an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza and the release of hostages. US Deputy Middle East Envoy Morgan Ortagus said the text did not go far enough in condemning Hamas or recognize Israel's right to defend itself. All 14 other members of the Security Council voted in favor in favor of the draft resolution, which described the humanitarian situation in Gaza as catastrophic and called for Israel to lift all aid restrictions. It comes as the UN's humanitarian office warned that the last lifelines for civilians are collapsing in Gaza City as Israel expands its military offensive. On the global stage, Israel and its closest ally look increasingly isolated. Speaking prior to the vote, Ortagus said Washington's opposition to the resolution should come as no surprise. After the vote, UN members reacted swiftly to express their disappointment. Palestinian ambassador to the UN, Riyad Mansour, called the US decision deeply regrettable and painful, saying it had prevented the Security Council from playing its rightful role in the face of these atrocities. Pakistan's ambassador Asim Ahmad described the vote as a veto as a dark moment in this chamber. Still on international news, US President Donald Trump has suggested some TV networks should have their licenses taken away. The remarks come after pressure from his administration led ABC to suspend Jimmy Kimmel, the late-night TV host, who suggested that the murder of conservative influencer Charlie Kirk in Utah last week was perpetrated by a Trump supporter. Kimmel's suspension following the threat of regulatory action has raised concerns in the Trump administration was attempting to curtail the free speech of its critics, with other talk show hosts commenting on the row. This is blatant censorship, Stephen Colbert said in his rival CBS show. Trump spoke about the issue to reporters aboard Air Force One on Thursday while returning from a state visit to the UK. In his monologue on Monday, 57-year-old Kimmel had said the MAGA gang, a reference to Trump supporters who rallied around his Make America Great Again election slogan, was desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and trying to score political points from it. And finally on sport, Super Eagles have slipped further in the latest FIFA Men's World Rankings, falling to 45th globally and once again dropping out of Africa's top 5. The three-time African champions were ranked 43rd in April and 44th in July, but have now dropped another spot in September update. The latest decline places Nigeria 6th in the continent, trailing behind several long-standing rivals. Morocco remained Africa's highest-ranked team, sitting 11th in the world after securing an early qualification for next year's FIFA World Cup. Senegal followed as the continent's second-best side at 18th globally, with Egypt 35th and Algeria 85th rounding up the top four. Cote d'Ivoire, buoyed by a consistent run of results, have climbed to 44th in the world, overtaking Nigeria to climb 5th place in Africa. Tunisia also made gains, rising 3 spots to 49th. Cameroon, South Africa and Mali complete Africa's top 10. Nigeria's continued slide is closely tied to their recent form, with the team managing just 2 wins in their last 5 matches alongside 2 losses and a draw. And that's the news, but before we go, here again are our top stories. Nigerians must count themselves lucky Tinubu is tolerant of criticisms, Wike says. Again, supporters gather ahead of Fubara's return to work. INEC reaffirms commitment to gender inclusivity. Koran urges Dangote Refinery and DAPMA to end rift. Nigeria can now deliver 5,000 passports in 5 hours, Tunjojo says. Lagos State government orders immediate suspension of reclamation project, citing environmental risks. On international news, US blocks UN call for Gaza ceasefire for 6th time. And in sports, Nigeria Super Eagles continue downward slide in FIFA rankings. And that's the world news at 12. I am Solomon of Do follow our social media handles at VUP903FM. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at VUP903FM. Good afternoon and thank you for listening.